2016 is the year of the divine turnaround. One generation experienced shipwreck, which was labeled tragedy, yet another generation is going to come along and uncover the shipwreck and see it as buried treasure. One generation's failures look like tragedy, but now you come along who can see, you now look at the shipwreck as valuable treasure. This year is all about a perspective change that involves the normal of heaven becoming the normal on earth. What used to be unseen will now be seen. Setbacks will now be seen as divine setups for comebacks. Instead of retreating in the face of a setback, we will find ourselves going on the offensive because these setbacks are now open doors for amazing comebacks. We'll begin to live as those who are possessed by heaven and who are possessing heaven as we encounter and abide in Jesus through our great friend, Holy Spirit. As those possessed by heaven while on earth, we will be entrusted and empowered to release and steward the very possessions of heaven on earth. Storms will become the place of adventure. We'll be known as storm chasers. Mountains will no longer be obstacles to overcome, but rather valuable commodities that we can say to move from here and go over there. Through our mustard seed faith, we will take mountains that used to block our paths and move them to blockade the enemy's pathway. We'll become like Moses, who used to run from his past and pick up our past by the tail and see defeats of the past become the very rod of God that will be used to part the seas and rivers of obstacles that have been set in our way. Serpents will now become our servants. Just as Paul was able to shake off the serpent of wrath, so we too will shake off the indictments of the past and become those who deliver others from the bondage of condemnation and become ministers of reconciliation. No longer will we retreat at the roar of the wandering, roaring lion. Instead, we will follow those roars, chase down those toothless lions, and destroy them as we cast our burden upon the one who cares for us. We'll be those who live soberly and vigilantly and sometimes savagely destroy the works of the enemy as our great King Jesus did on the cross. We'll be those who are so convinced of how heaven sees us that we will effortlessly and boldly release heaven on earth. We'll recapture our birthright as citizens of heaven and walk with brand new passports with pages waiting to be filled up with heavenly adventures. I started crying right there. Whew. How many of you want to go on an adventure? Man, some of you got a brand new passport. Time to fill it up. We'll begin to exercise our authority in brand new ways, empowered by the very intimacy we have with Jesus through Holy Spirit. Retreat will no longer be an option. Defeat will no longer be a part of our culture. We'll be those who are not afraid to get wounded, because why worry about a wound when death has lost its sting? Sorry, I'm getting messed up. Wounds will become upgrades and motivation to see the wounded healed. What used to be seen as shipwrecks will now become divine adventures where we discover buried treasure. We'll be those that are not impressed by the world, so we will not fall into love affairs with it, because we are so impressed by heaven. We'll be those who joyously trade in the substitutes, holding out for the real. Hell will wish it had not picked a fight with us. This is the season for the bully to get punched in the mouth. We will silence the bully and his curses will be sent back to fall upon his own head. He will wish he had never given up his position around the throne, as he and his cohorts are sent back to become only a footstool for our great King to rest his beautiful feet upon. Jeez, what's happening? Oh. Oh. His beautiful feet, man. We will have owl-like vision in which we can spot treasure in darkness. We'll become those who pray as though heaven is already opened and its resources are made available as we ask, seek, and knock. And then he showed me, this as the Israelites, when that day of the Emancipation Proclamation, their lives came and they came out of Egypt, 430 some odd years of wages that were due them, they got paid in a moment of time. They plundered Egypt. They got their wages with interest. I believe that's a word for us. It's a word for the body. It's a word for this region. It's a word for Florida. And all he's looking for is a bunch of crazy. Okay, can I use this word? The enemy's been, heaven needs some radicals. We need to become radicalized. I'm not afraid to use terms like this because there's something obviously in the spirit that is bent towards, now we're in the movement of the radical. Then that has to apply to the church. You need to grab as many people around you in your life that are lost, hurt, helpless, fatherless, and invite them in to the radical, abundant life of Jesus Christ.